It's time once again to slip into your camo, grab your bow, and join us out in the field for another episode of the Up North Journal, presented by PSE Archery. The Up North Journal crew is knocked and ready to rock for another exciting adventure. So let's step outside and hit the trail.
This episode of the Up North Journal podcast is brought to you by PSE Archery,
Black Eagle Arrows,
Scent Blocker,
Killer Food Plots,
Cabela's,
Spot Shooters,
Antler Action,
Family Traditions Tree Stands,
Tom's Custom Turkey Calls,
and Badass Slingshots.
Welcome back another June evening here in the cabin, Up North Journal podcast. What's going on, Dan?
Is it June or is it April?
It feels like it's almost like March or October. It's cold out.
You know, it's funny. It's just been one of those things. It was like...
what is it, 60 degrees?
It's like 60 degrees out there, and it's going to be cold. It's going to be colder tonight and tomorrow.
I know. Almost like it's getting into archery season.
I know.
You know. And speaking of archery season, we're just going to jump right into tonight's show because we do have a special guest on the line with us tonight.
That's right.
But we've been talking about oak wilt up at our camp a little bit last week, and I wanted to dive into that. And a guy that I've been working with here for a little while at Allband Communications up in our area, up in Alcona County. And it's basically a fiber optic telephone company. And the general manager, Ron Siegle, is on with us tonight. Hey, Ron, you still with us? Still connected?
I'm here, guys. How are we doing?
Hey, we're doing good once I got Danny straightened out over here.
Hey, leave me alone.
How's the weather?
I'm having a blast watching you guys here on Facebook Live, actually.
Hey, cool. Very cool. Actually, if I had the connection, I'd have you in this monitor right here behind us.
Right, exactly.
But what's the weather like up there at camp right now or in the area? You're up in that area.
I'll tell you what, it's nice right now. It's a little chilly, but we've had a lot of rain. It was pouring earlier.
Did you see the video that I shared where the fish were swimming up a sidewalk this week here in Michigan?
I did. I actually just shared that to our page.
That is insane.
Isn't that wild?
Amazing.
They had a little bit of water.
And then bad for those fish.
Right.
Yeah, if they don't know where they're going. And then we just looked at that picture on Facebook of that gentleman kayaking by his elevated deer blind.
Yeah, somewhere here in Michigan.
Somewhere here in Michigan. I'm assuming it's over Mount Pleasant area where they had all the rain in Midland area.
Yeah.
But when you can kayak by your... He said it was 10 foot to the platform.
And he was only, 5 feet below it maybe?
Exactly.
Man, that's crazy.
There's some serious water.
You know, I halfway expected you. You know, Danny always brings drinks for the show here, if you guys can see on live stream. And lately he's been bringing summer drinks. And I halfway expected him to be bringing coffee tonight because it is chilly.
I couldn't do it.
But
coffee not until October.
Right. But Ron, we got you on the show tonight, and I really kind of wanted to use this tonight as a platform for what you and I have kind of started up there, or really what you started, and I'm just kind of getting on board with what you're doing up there. How we're using technology in the outdoors to benefit hunters, fishermen, just people who like the outdoors and really care about our outdoors. Talk a little bit about this outdoor education and research facility that you've kind of got up and running or starting to run there and where we're at with it. Just give us a quick little thumbnail of what you're doing.
Sure, I can definitely do that. And, Mike, I always, at least for our cooperative, I always try to align myself with what I call champions in the community. You guys are definitely examples of that. And, it all starts with, just leveraging the right people at the right time and getting people together to try to tackle things. And, I'm really an outside the box thinker, and we're surrounded by those types of people. So it's really unique what we do. And before I dive into the 501c3 entity, let me take just a couple minutes, that's all right, to kind of explain why we're even in this area.
Sure.
It started about, 20 years now. Our president, John, he tried to get a phone from GTE back in the day, which was the old phone company, and we're talking landline, not cell phone. And he found out that, we had a real problem up in this area. It was about 180 square mile area that never had any telephone infrastructure in it. And, people didn't have 911. There was some, rough stories about people dying and how long it would take to get help. And after we're trying to get a phone, John went out and kind of aligned himself with some locals, and he ended up trying to take matters into his own hand. And lo and behold, he was able to partner with Michigan State University, Northeast Michigan Council of Governments, found me up at down in East Lansing and MSU, and I had started doing research on rural telecom up here. And he ended up starting what is now Allband Communications Cooperative, which is one of the first co-ops for telephone in the state of Michigan. Now, this was an area that never had anything in it, meaning there was no copper infrastructure. So even back then, we saw the writing on the wall that we wanted to use fiber optics to build this foundation out there, because it just made sense. We knew broadband was going to be the way of the future. And typically, if anybody knows our area, it's the hunting, fishing capital of Michigan, at least in the Lower Peninsula. And
right.
You wouldn't expect to see fiber to the home. It's kind of similar to what Google does these days down in Kansas City, things like that. So we built this network. We got a loan from the USDA Rural Utility Service, the same entity that got the rural electrification program off to a hot start back in the 30s, 40s, 50s, and we were able to get universal service funding and just get real creative with subsidies and trying to build what is now a very unique and impressive community company. We were able to get our hands on some more grant funding through the American Recovery and Reinvestment Act when Obama took office, and we've since expanded. So, we now have over about 400 miles of buried fiber optic cable in about a 300 square mile area. And this is, the hotbed of natural resources. I mean, we have obviously the whitetail industry, fishing, forestry, and obviously we have the Bovine TB issue, which I'm sure you've talked a lot about on the show.
Right.
So Allband's a co-op, and we've always, as I said, been a community company. And what we do is we try to leverage these technologies, and it goes well beyond just providing internet service. We provide 100 meg internet. We bring a fiber optic cable right to your home. We do telephone. We have a whole automation product called LifeWatch. We're trying to get into video, and now we're even trying to tackle some new wireless technologies that are much more reliable and robust for rural areas like this. We're in an area that has a density of probably 2 people per mile. So having this technology in an area like this has just been an amazing opportunity. So we've been running strong for about 12 years, and we decided to start looking at, well, what else can we do with this technology in our area? And that's when we formed the Allband Center for Education, Wildlife, and Research, which I call ACEWR. And what this entity is, it's a 501c3 nonprofit. And what we're trying to do is leverage these technologies and work with local camps, property owners, DNR, MDAR, MUCC, all the players, private educational entities, public educational entities, centralized local co-ops that I know, Anna with MUCC helps form. I know we have one locally in the area.
Right.
So the big question has been is how can we leverage this technology to really do something amazing and help with research such as bovine TB, oak wilt, which we'll talk about, spruce bud, invasive species, really anything can be enhanced from a research perspective and especially a communications perspective with the technology. So not only are we trying to aid with this research, we're trying to form, interactive multimedia platforms like portals and things like Facebook where we can get camps together and really start getting the right information out there, getting the right experts together, and starting to make an impact on, the communication gap. So we're doing forestry the right way. We're, providing the right foods. We're for the herds or, whatever you're trying to get into. And one of the things we're really tackling right now is cameras. We've got some new technologies. We actually have a solar-powered, what we call our live solar-powered trail cam. If you go on our website, which is allband.org, we have a live feed of it there. And essentially what we're doing is we're looking at monitoring food plots and browsing habits, and even trying to work with universities to help identify disease in real time, have a way to have kind of a mobile response to breakouts, like if chronic wasting disease hits the area, things like that.
Yeah, the whole idea, the first time I heard about this, I was just simply blown away. And I've been involved with you talking about this now for, the last 6 months or so, maybe a little longer. And it still amazes me today that we can do this kind of stuff and get real-time data, and real-time visuals on what's going on without being able to have a person standing in a field with a camera, taking pictures, taking video, and spooking animals. So, you get to see them in their natural habitat. You get to see what's really going on. It could be, measuring rainfall. It could be measuring wind, erosion, any of these types of things. You've got cameras that go underwater as well. Am I right?
Yeah, I've been chatting with a gentleman in Florida who does a lot of deep sea equipment for divers, for just boats, and, you can go 1,500 feet down, you can have them customized. So I'm actually hoping to put an order in for a couple cameras and start doing some live demoing of some local areas, you can use for spawning, things like that, whether whatever you want to look at, that's what we're trying to do is leverage that technology. And there's a big push. I know the Wildlife Society, for example, they just had a big article come out where they're really pressing for the use of technology. And like you said, the ability to have broadband in these areas and keep the human element out of it as long as possible, all the way up to maybe, the 15th, keep the pressure off, and, even have the technology to use trail cams where you don't have to run around and get the SD cards and, get live text to your phone and see what you got. See if, whether you're looking for that trophy buck or you want to, there's predator studies going around.
Right.
What's happening to the fawns?
Right.
Where's my fawn population going? Are we really losing as many or as few as we thought? The possibilities are endless, and it's been a lot of fun. It's been picking up steam. That oak wilt video, for example, it was just a unique opportunity to get the DNR and the Alcona Forest Conservation guys together. And I mean, that, we're growing every day. And even without being a huge social media behemoth, I mean, we've had over 6,500 views and it's hit a lot of people. So that's what I liked about that, is I had the experts there. We had a live example of it, and we were able to get a lot of good information out there for people.
Right. Absolutely. And that's really kind of the whole goal of this research facility, as far as what we're trying to do here, is just get out good information to people and let them, decipher what they need to do on their own property.
Exactly. And you know what? And like you said about the technology, and it's also not, he's talking about using a solar powered trail camera or an underwater camera. These are, in essence, small objects compared to what you used to, think about like the very first cell phone.
Right, yeah.
Right.
Or what I run around with at work on my shoulder, a big camera.
Exactly. Now, it's all it's solar powered.
Yeah.
It's small.
Yeah, and being able to run them to fiber, and that's the one thing that I want to say thank you for being able to provide such a service, because this is how I do some of the live streams I do from camp, is the fact that we have fiber optic out in the middle of stinking nowhere. Otherwise it's just not possible. So, yeah, like you said, the possibilities are just endless. But go ahead.
And you're talking about that, and he's talking about Florida, and we got Greg Dyer on, and he's saying hello from Tennessee.
There you go. Yep. And I know Paul down in Texas is there. Jeremy Gill, I've seen him on. I believe he's out in Kansas still. So, once we start talking about this and get this out there, it's not just Michigan. I mean, Ron, have you kind of thought about, we're trying to solidify Michigan, but is there like an end goal of taking this to even a broader extreme across the United States?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, to touch on, the beauty of the broadband, and, we really look at broadband, I urge people to look at it as more than just internet. It's really an opportunity service. That's what I like to call it. It's, it's a gateway, and, that's the beauty of these fiber optics and why it's so important for the government to keep investing in rural areas. And, we always talk about bridging the digital divide, or now it's a more positive spin. They call it digital inclusion. And, it falls into a lot of things, whether it's education or telemedicine or e-government and things like that. But broadband's amazing. And, to have people from all over the state chiming in and to have live streams all over the place, the ability to disseminate that information at a much faster pace is amazing. I mean, I think it makes it also work a little bit harder and faster. But, I've spent some time down in Mississippi. I've spent some time down in Texas. I met with some research faculty and different entities down at Mississippi State, Texas A&M, MSU. I mean, I'm always going to have my heart in Michigan, but there's experts all over the place.
Right.
Oak wilt, for example, it's a big Midwest problem. It's a big problem in Texas. There's a lot of miles between us. And I've been recruiting researchers down there just because they're one of the top 2 natural resource schools. And, the question always comes up, well, what can I do in Michigan? And my answer is, what can you not do in Michigan? You don't have to keep sending people there back and forth. We can set up these broadband wireless networks. We can run fiber.
Yeah.
We can go after grants. That's the other big reason I formed the 501c3 is to, get foundation and grant money and sponsorships and get everybody involved. So, yeah, it's possible to do a study with people down at Texas A&M, for example, all the way up in northern Michigan.
Yeah, real time. I mean, they're looking at camera or something that's grabbing data in real time, and they're able to look at that and analyze that in real time.
Absolutely.
From in Texas, from somewhere here in Michigan. So that's the things that's just
cool.
cool.
Real quick, cool story on that is, we talked about bovine TB, and you don't, until a bovine TB positive whitetail is real far along, it's obvious that they're sick.
Right.
So you can't always tell, but we were even I shouldn't say joking around, but because it's actually something we could do, is to have these cameras. I shouldn't say joking, more brainstorming, but
sure.
Get, for example, on the cameras, have some type of laser fed sensing. How infants nowadays, you don't have to use an old school thermometer. You can just stick a device on their forehead and get their temperature. Well,
sure.
What if we could have some type of temperature heat sensing device on a camera? When the deer walks by, it'll take a snapshot of that camera, start recording or email it out automatically, and then also get a snapshot trigger of the temperature of the deer. I'm not a bovine expert, but apparently, if they have symptoms, they're going to show high fever like a flu.
Oh, no kidding.
So just ideas like that. How can we blend technology with different researchers and their studies, and how can we make things a reality in that sense and get them done a lot quicker?
Yeah, I think, when we start talking digital and we're talking fiber optic and cameras, we automatically think of video, audio, and pictures.
Right.
But the actual technology is just so much more. It's so much more broader if we just think broader than just those simple terms, and being able to use those applications to.
And really, sky's the limit this day and age.
Yeah, absolutely. So.
And I'm not trying to be an expert. I mean, there's no way I can be an expert in everything. We want to be a facilitator.
Right.
We want to get the experts together. We want to get the researchers together. Because what I've noticed in looking and working on this for a while now is there's so much information out there, and the information goes so many different ways. People get very heated about these things. They think, I'm not going to get into any examples because I don't want to start a big hour-long discussion, but you know what I mean? I mean, everyone has their opinion.
Mm-hmm.
It affects everybody in different ways. You have your government experts, you have your land management experts, you have your private experts. Well, what if we could get them all together in a portal? What if we could get them all together under one medium and share that with the public, and everyone could benefit, whether it's government entities or cattle industry, dairy industry, your private hunters, your huge hunting resorts, everything like that. So that's really what our end game is going to be, is how can we facilitate all this information, to help the area. And I personally, if there was a category ahead of novice hunter, I would probably be, in that. But, I would love to, I want to see our forests. I want to see the hunting. I want to see Michigan get reestablished as the hunting mecca it really should be, because I've seen it decline, and I think we all want it to improve. And I think there's a lot of people with a much more open mind these days looking for new solutions, and that's kind of what we're working on.
That's awesome.
It is, and it's, Allband wants to be the stethoscope for the industry.
I like that, the stethoscope of the outdoors.
There you go.
Ron's going to be listening to the heartbeat of Michigan. That's an ad campaign right there.
Do I have to pay you for that if I use that on my website? Yeah.
That would be yes.
We'll talk about that off camera. Oh, this is good. Hey, I tell you what, let's take our first break here, and we're going to step outside. We'll be right back after this, but we're going to continue the conversation along these lines, but we're also going to get into some other stuff, so we'll be right back after this.
PSE Archery has always dominated the speed category. Now, the most revolutionary cam system ever to hit the market has perfected the shooting experience. Introducing PSE's Evolve Cam System, featuring extremely high let-off capabilities and the smoothest draw cycle in history. No other cam system has ever delivered this level of total comfort and total control. Experience PSE. Experience performance.
Killer Food Plots have been helping property owners for over 20 years create premier whitetail habitat. Whether replenishing your soil with their all-natural Organics Fusion pellets or planting a premier KFP food plot seed blend to help your deer rebuild their bodies through spring and summer while supplying the much-needed high energy during and after the rut, you can trust that Killer Food Plots family and their products will help your deer achieve their full potential.
Welcome back. Second segment of the show. Sitting here talking in the break. We had some good talk here in the break, actually.
Absolutely.
Yeah. As always, people listen to the podcast. You need to watch the live stream as well to
Yes,
catch up on some of the other little odd and ends.
Things you won't hear on the podcast, but you could hear and see. And you know what? Matter of fact, as you speak about that, I think I got it either Tuesday or Wednesday. You'll see me throw out a post that you can, I'll release the video again. And for people in case it's halfway during the week and want something to do and watch us or listen to us.
Putting it on Vimeo and YouTube, right?
Yep. Vimeo, YouTube, it's all out there.
Good deal. Well, Ron, before we went to break there, you kind of talked about the whole scope of kind of what we're trying to do, and we're working together on some of this stuff. What is the toughest thing you've encountered so far? The biggest resistance? Maybe it's people not understanding, or I'll just let you answer. What have you faced?
Well, it's interesting. I think for the most part, people have been very excited about it. I think everybody wants change. I think everybody wants to see a different level of collaboration, money being used differently. But at the same time, lack of resources is what I run into a lot.
Okay.
It's interesting with, if you talk to the entities, the government entities especially, or, the guys out in the field, funding can sometimes be an issue depending on the political climate, depending on, the big hot topics running right now. I mean, for example, bovine tuberculosis, it's not just a whitetail hunter problem. It's a problem for agriculture.
Right.
And then MSU Extension gets involved. They want, they want to protect their crops. And if the deer aren't getting their food, they're going to start messing with crops. You have MDARD, which is, focused on the cattle dairy industry. And, what we all know what a nightmare it is when these cattle herds get positive results for bovine. And, so it's a couple things have been, lack of funding. And that's where I hope this 501c3 entity can help. For example, the gentleman we had out for the oak wilt, he's kind of flying solo. I mean, he's covering a lot of ground, and there's a lot of other entities that work together. But for example, hey, if there's any grant foundations out there that want to fund some, help with forest management, things like that, that's one of the things Allband is working on in our area. We have equipment, we lay fiber. And ironically, the same equipment that we lay fiber can also be used to cut, root systems to help prevent the spread of oak wilt. And then there's a silo effect I've noticed. There's sometimes with private, public, whatever you want to call it, whether it's local camps or public entities, there's a silo effect, which I call it, where entities and camps, they're all focused on the same need and the same thing, but they're kind of all trying to go at it alone. And we all know there's strength in numbers. We just got to kind of keep everybody aligned in the same direction and believing in the same thing. Education's a problem. Knowledge is a problem. When I say knowledge, I mean, what's the right way to prevent the spread of oak wilt? What's the best way to strengthen your herd, strengthen your forest, get those acorns, whatever you want to look at.
Right.
What's the best food plot methodology? There's so much out there. And now you have social media, like anything these days, putting a lot out there. But, you got to ask yourself sometimes, am I doing it the right way? And who am I listening to? And are we all supporting in the same effort? So those are just a couple of the things. And getting trust is another thing. There's always that stigma when you get government involved, especially with private camps. I don't need to go into depth on that. I think we all know what I'm talking about.
Yep.
And what I have noticed in working with the government entities so far, they've been very open-armed. They've been very passionate about trying to find new ways to kind of bridge those taboos. And, I'll just come out and say it. The DNR, such a small percentage of the DNR is enforcement, but that's what everyone tends to focus on. And I understand why. But there's a lot of biologists and a lot of specialists out there that just want to get the information out. And sometimes they just need to look at it and approach it from a more modern perspective. And, that's when using, what you guys are doing right now and allowing me to talk and, using Facebook, for example. What a quick way to spread good information.
I think you hit the nail right on the head there with that. A lot of guys are guarded about certain things, whether it be information that they have or allowing access to their property. But I think us as outdoorsmen, it's our responsibility to help take care of, but also if there's a problem to help cure or stop a problem from growing, further. And we've been talking about a little bit about oak wilt, and let's just dive into that a little bit.
Sure.
The video that you showed that we shared on our page, that's from my camp. That's from our hunting property, and we talked a little bit last week. We've got oak wilt on our property. So, you were out there with, I don't know the gentleman's name, but, you could tell he was a lumberjack.
A little bit.
He had his axe, he had the beard, he had the look.
Those pants were priceless.
Yeah. So, he was the man out there.
That guy was great. Man.
Christmas plaid.
Yeah.
And
he's not a big Facebooker actually.
Really?
That falls right in with what I'm talking about.
Mm-hmm.
Is not everybody's on Facebook. Not everybody can chime in, and I made that video and I had a crash course live, right in the trenches of what oak wilt does. And
yeah,
I
you
learned
did.
a lot. And I'm not going to claim I'm an expert, so let me just set that tone right now on
Right.
this live broadcast. But I did my research. I took notes. I talked to him. You had Philip from the DNR and / MSU Extension. You had Eric out there. He's the Alcona County Forest. So what happened is, Philip came out and he's like, all right, well, we went out with a few of the camp members and, well, here's a cluster of dead red oak. It was a beautiful sunny day, and here's this cluster of just a dead tree, and it wasn't old; it just was dead, and there were several of them. And so Philip's out there, and he's doing his thing identifying, and then phase 2 of that was Eric talking to the camp owners, saying, okay, well, what's our management plan going to be? How are we going to prevent the spread? Because we're talking about more than just your oak population dying off. You're also killing off a huge food source for your whitetail herd.
Bingo.
And it will take out your entire forest. I mean, if you don't do anything about it, it will spread and it will decimate the oaks. And what I learned is red oak, I don't know why, but red oak is much more susceptible to it and is killed much easier than, say, a white oak.
Yeah. Well, from what you learned and what I've learned, here in the last 3 or 4 months, I was at an MUCC deer browse study, and actually this whole subject came up, ironically, that day. And the way the red oaks work is their root systems, they graft together from tree to tree and join. So, under the ground, they're all interconnected. And then once they get that virus, or that, not virus, that fungus, thank you, it gets spread through the root system from one tree to the next, to the next, to the next. So it doesn't even take the beetle that's active in the spring jumping from tree to tree to get this going. It's, and that's where you talked about you've got these vibrating plows to bury cable, but you can also use them to cut the root system and separate them.
And that's one of the coolest thing when we discuss this, talking about that, how you would never think underneath how they're all intertwined, but yet it is.
It is interconnected. I
don't.
Go ahead.
I'm sorry. Yeah, I don't think people realize, and I learned this the hard way this spring when I had to have the city come out and, get some roots out of my septic line, but you don't realize how much farther the root system spreads. I mean, think about how tall a tree is, and then, think about how far that root system will grow.
Yeah.
And it's interesting. Yeah, it is all intertwined, and that's the biggest threat is the root system, kind of getting intermingled and spreading that way. Hold on, I'm sorry. I got to get a animal out of my room here. My apologies. But yeah, so you cut the root system. And, the thing I want to point out too, because it was interesting, we were talking about information being spread and questions, and one of the first comments I got on that post was, well, aren't you making it worse by exposing these pockets? And
right.
And I'm like, well, hey, it's a valid question. Let me ask the DNR. And, so there's a couple rules with oak wilt is, if these pockets, especially with the red oaks, once the pockets form, they get hollow. So that's why you're looking for the knocking. But a lot of times you can identify them just by looking at the crack in the bark. So really, if the spore is going to get out, it's going to get out.
Yeah,
and the thing with oak wilt is it's not like a mushroom where it just shoots spores out everywhere. Now, the problem is that Ninadula beetle, which they call sap eaters or picnic beetles, they're little tiny black beetles. And it was cool in that video because we actually got to see one, ironically, when he was ripping it off. So, identifying wise, you got that hollow pocket, you see the beetle. They start out white. They eventually turn black. So you got to see an old one and a kind of semi-old one because they had white in the center and black around it. But the thing he pointed out is, the only way this is going to spread is a couple ways. Is if you don't take care of the root system, you move firewood. That's a big no-no, and I think we get that hammered in all around. Don't use local firewood. Don't move it around to different areas. And don't prune or cut or disturb live oaks between April 15th and July 15th. That's like the general growing season. So if you start pruning an oak and that beetle gets out and moves to that, because they will go after it because they're a sap eater. That's how it spreads from the beetle. So just knocking off those hollow pockets like we were doing isn't going to really do much, but you got to do something, like I said earlier.
Right.
And it smells like juicy fruit. That was the funny thing too. He's like, yeah, if it smells like juicy fruit or fermented apple cider, when you pull that bark off, you definitely have oak wilt.
So did it smell like juicy fruit?
I thought it smelled more like cider, but
okay.
You know, everyone has different senses. But yeah, it does. It's kind of cool. I mean, it's not cool, but you know what I mean.
Yeah, I got you.
Yeah.
So, you know, and the other thing, you know, that we haven't even touched on, I mean, obviously, if the tree dies, you no longer have any regeneration because red oak are stump sprouting oaks.
Right.
So if you cut an oak tree down while it's alive, it's going to resprout. Obviously, with these disease trees, you don't want that to happen. But you're not going to get any regeneration. Once this tree's dead, it's gone. You've lost your acorn crop there, and it's going to spread to another red oak, to another one, and it's going to decimate that whole area. You know, and if you cut it now, even though it is disease, like you said, firewood. You know, it's good for firewood and maybe making oak pallets out of at a lumber yard. You know, there's no value of these trees, so you need to get it stopped before it spreads to your healthy oaks. You know, you're going to lose your forest. You're going to lose any opportunity to make any money later on if you so choose to cut and prune your oaks.
Right, exactly.
So it's just a double-edged sword. So,
exactly. And there's a lot of information too that you know, that's why it's important for, you know, people to reach out to their, you know, the DNR Forest Health Division or the conservation people, or, you know, I mean, this Phillip guy came out, no questions asked, you know, and we met him out there, and it was a great experience, and even found some of the hatched grouse eggs, which was kind of cool on a side note.
Yeah.
But, you know, there were several things that were talked about, you know, that came up. You know, do you pull the stump so you don't have the stump regeneration? And there's questions about, well, what if you want to replant? And there's also an element to this called burnout. You know, if you basically what you do is you cut the root system and then you wait for the disease to burn itself out, because it eventually will burn itself out. And then the question is, well, when do you start replanting? Apparently, you can start replanting, you know, saplings or whatever you want to call them right away, because they can't get affected in that amount of time by the disease. But there's an art to it. There's definitely a timing to it. There's a strategy to it, and it's important to get the right experts at the right medium and the right platform, making sure everyone has that same message and they can work together. And neighboring camps is huge, and that's part of what we're trying to do. You know, if I can get a couple camps that have suffered from this Hatfield-McCoy type of problem over the years, you know, because it happens, you know.
It does.
Shot my buck back in 1975, you know, I traveled the blood trail, you know. If you can get people to work together, I think that's pretty key, and I think everyone's going to benefit, and I think that's what the government wants, and that's what the locals want, is to everyone to have a better hunt at the end of the day and have a healthier environment.
You know, you bring up a great point with that, because that's the one thing that scares me to death, okay, is neighboring landowners. You know, we've reached out to them, but we've not got a lot of feedback, and if they're not going to take care of, if they have an issue on their property, it can still jump onto our property. I mean, there's no trees don't know boundaries.
That's exactly right.
So if you're trying to take care of your property and your neighbor's not and doesn't care, or maybe he doesn't know any better and you haven't talked to him, you're still putting your land in jeopardy. That's the reason to, so like Ron said, mend the fence, so to speak, you know, and work together. You know, maybe it's not talking about deer hunting, but it does affect your deer hunting.
And well, not just that, but it's also, you know, Ron's also brought up a good thing as he's talking here. Going a little bit back, even the DNR, you know, everybody knows them for the bad side, right? But all this good side, they don't know the Facebook either and what they can use. You know, they need the help getting the word out as to what they can do.
How many times have we heard at the Deer Summit, in other places, we talk to DNR and they're like, we know we have a bad image.
Right.
There's things we do that is great and helps the outdoorsman, but nobody knows about it because we don't know how to get the word out.
Exactly.
So, you know, and that's the one thing I think they really need. They need to change their image, and that's one way that we can do this. So.
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah, and if I can make one more comment, guys, you know, the generational thing too is important to remember too. I mean, even, you know, when I first started Allband and we were trying to get people to join our co-op, you know, I heard people were like, we don't want phones, we don't want internet, we come out here to get away, you know, and then we watched that generation start to age, and they're like, oh, well, maybe I could use a 911 phone, because that's really what it was about in the beginning, was, you know, saving lives and So when you get the older guys in the camp, and they're starting to see the way a little bit. But what you're starting to see is the generations get older. The young, 10 years ago, the young guys, who were learning the way. Now they want to be connected. They want to play with the internet. They want to watch their camps. You're starting to see much more interest in these things. And I think once you get that newer generation, they have an open mind, and they're much more open to collaboration and things like this to, better the camp. And they're not as jaded by the old days, you know what I mean? When everybody was baiting and everyone had to have the most bait on their property. And I know it's a taboo topic, but we all know it happened.
It happened, yeah, absolutely.
And, we all know what that does to the herd, and it makes them dependent on human interference and on and on and on. So I've seen a shift, and I think it's a great thing. And
we've talked about that also, is the shift with the new for all about, the new educated hunter. It's not that, not the old days of the grabbing the gun, grabbing the license, and heading out to the woods. There's some of it there, but not so much anymore.
Yeah, I think people are clamoring for information. They want to know the latest and the greatest and the best way to do things. I mean, if you're what we call weekend warrior, and you've got 2 weekends before season to get up and get something done, you don't want to be wasting your time when you get up there. You want to be able to get up there, get the job done, and get out, and know you've done it right.
And if you're informed and you know exactly, and you driving up gives you a couple hours to formulate the game plan, and if you got a little education about what you want to do, man, you can take those hours that you have and the time you spend out in the woods are greatly improved what you're doing.
Right. Well, you know what? We're bumping up on our second break here. Ron, don't go away. I want to carry this over into a third segment because I got one question I want to ask you and give you an opportunity to do something here. So we're going to step outside, take our next break, and we'll be right back after this.
So what do you do when you've completely redefined the way bows are engineered? When you've reached the pinnacle and the band starts playing your victory song, you start a revolution out of thin air. Introducing the all-new PSE Carbon Air, engineered with true carbon technology to be the lightest high-performance bow in the world. Experience PSE. Experience performance.
Throughout human history, one notorious killer has remained at the top and claimed more lives than any war or natural disaster combined. Mosquitoes. It's time to arm yourself and protect your family this season with Scent Blocker's new Bug Blocker for insects. Lasting up to 8 hours, Bug Blocker not only repels biting mosquitoes that can carry the West Nile virus, but other biting insects, including chiggers, biting flies, gnats, and ticks which can carry Lyme disease. Field tested by outfitters and guides from Alaska to Alabama and everywhere in between. The results are in, and Bug Blocker flat out works. In a high-potency sportsman strength dosage, using 25% no-nonsense DEET, plus 2 specific ingredients to target biting flies, Bug Blocker plays for keeps. For ultimate protection, pair Bug Blocker insects with Bug Blocker ticks.
Welcome back, everybody. Third segment of the show. Still sitting here talking about new technologies and things we can play with in the woods to make our hunting experiences better and become better educated. Ron, you and I, we've talked many times on the phone about the portal, and you mentioned it tonight about putting a portal together. There were some things that you were asking me about, and I kind of wanted to give you maybe this opportunity to ask our listeners, some of the things that maybe you're thinking about, or we're going to open it up for them maybe to chime in and say what they would like for, to see on a portal, what they would be willing to maybe pay a yearly subscription fee to get into something like that. Can you expand on that a little bit?
Yeah, so one of the things I'm working on right now is trying to put together an interactive kind of state-of-the-art portal, that would make it so much easier to find the right information and contacts. And, it's interesting in the world we live in. I mean, there's so much information on the web, and I'm not saying you can't go do your own research and find stuff about Oakwood. I mean, in a couple of minutes, I posted DNR in Texas, and, there's all sorts of good information. But, what I'm trying to do is build a new kind of educational research tracking foundation to kind of bring everybody together and answer these questions. For example, you go on the portal, and I call the portal not a website because I want it to be a portal of information. We're talking about not just information, but real-time tracking. Trying to get people to come together and get corporations involved and vendors involved to say, okay, let's start tracking hunts. Let's start doing interactive GIS. Let's start looking at where the bucks are coming in, where the ratios are, and and I'm trying to develop that right now. And the best way for me to do that is to kind of get feedback from everybody. I want to talk to the hunters. I want to, the hunting industry is such an amazing industry, and there's so much money revolving around it. It's amazing. And it's one of the things in this world that isn't impacted, in my opinion, by the economy and downturns and things like that. When people are passionate about stuff, they're passionate about stuff. If you ask me about an Apple computer, man, I could fill up 2 hours of discussion, but because I'm just passionate about Apple products. I know it has nothing to do with hunting, but I need that feedback. We want to hear from the hunters. We want to hear from the government. We want to bridge that disconnect. We want to build something in the near future here, and I'm already working on it, that is going to bring a lot of value to people. And we hope through sponsorships and, a reasonable membership fee, things like that, we would provide a platform almost like the Hunters Facebook, so to speak, where we're going to collect information. We're going to bring people in, get them involved with research, following the right plans, whether it be forestry or deer management, and kind of start a new revolution. I hate to be that bold, but
no, it is.
There's a lot of people that are very interested in that concept.
Yeah. So I guess to our listeners out there, we want feedback, and you can put it on our Facebook page. You can send it to us in a direct message. You can email us. You guys out there listening to the podcast, you know how to get a hold of us. What would you be willing to pay for a yearly subscription rate? And I mean, be straight up honest. I don't care what it is. Let us know, and let us know what kind of information that you would want to see on that.
Exactly. Yep.
For your home state or your home area. We're talking about, putting together some documentary videos that I'm going to be working on here real soon, and putting some things like that on there. Whether it be food plots, whether it be oak wilt, whether it be, deer, bear management, turkey management, anything that you've got to do in the outdoors, fishing, hunting, camping, kayaking on a river. It doesn't matter what it is. We want to know what information you want to be able to access at your fingertip.
Yep, exactly.
And what you're willing to pay for that. Just so we can kind of start to formulate some plans and push in those directions. So.
Yeah, and and I don't want to put the emphasis on the money. I mean, it's we all, whether you're a not-for-profit, a non-profit, a for-profit, whatever you are. I mean, money is what brings talent. Money is what keeps the things going, keeps the lights on, and and that's why we started the 501c3 to make sure we had the right message coming across. But it's important for me to understand what people want. So at the end of the day, if you're it's your Sunday night and Game of Thrones is about to come on, or whatever show you're addicted to, what's going to make you pick up that Facebook portal or that website portal and go check it out and see what's going on, and see what new information is being, brought forth, and how can we use this information to help grad students and undergrads do the new state-of-the-art research in the natural resource realm. And, if you had your choice of what you wanted to play with and what you wanted to look at, are you interested in seeing an independent tracking of what bucks are taken where, and, or turkeys, or, whatever you want to look at, that's the feedback I'm looking for.
Right.
I think I have a good idea, but, if there's going to be a need to fill, I want to know exactly what that need is and where people are coming from in this day and age of technology.
Yeah, because there's something out there that we haven't thought about yet. And somebody's going to come up with that idea and say, hey, I'd like to know about this.
That's right.
And that's how this grows.
And that's the thing is like he said, being on target with the customer. Mm-hmm. Not telling them what they like.
Yeah.
But actually giving them what they like.
Give them a choice.
That's right.
So, but no.
And I want to say real quick, too, because I don't know how much time we got left. If you want more information about us, you can call us. Our website is allband.org, ALLBAND. You can go allband.org/research. That'll get you right to the research part of our 501c3, which is the Allband Center for Education, Wildlife, and Research. Mm-hmm. Email also works good, info@allband.org. We got a real easy phone number, 989-369-9999. We'd love to hear from you, whether it's feedback. Facebook is the most active portal right now that we're using. Gets people, everyone's on Facebook these days.
Right.
And we'd love to hear from you. And if people need to get in touch with the right government entities. If you think you need help from us in the area with forest management, if there's anything we can do to help with heavy equipment, things like that, we'd love to talk to you and, keep growing this philosophy and this endeavor.
Right on. Before I let you go, though, I seen a sign. I was up in camp last weekend before last, when we were up doing the trout fishing trip.
Oh, yeah, last weekend. At
the corner of M65 and M32, there's a big billboard, and it talks about Allband's internet. It says it's faster than a rutting buck. I want to know who come up with that slogan.
Oh, the legendary rutting buck. So yeah, that was me. That was me, actually.
Okay, all right,
and,
nice.
I just, you try to get creative. Well, how, what can we associate, that resonates with people in the area with how fast their internet is, and I pictured, a buck during the rut, just running around like a madman,
right.
doing what he does during the rut, and running really fast. And, so people took it another way, which, I think, however you want to take that, it wasn't really my intent, but it's been a pretty successful marketing.
You got exactly what you wanted
made, and it was.
That's good.
People thought it was pretty funny. Yeah.
No, I appreciate it, man. It's just
he got people talking about
exactly.
it. That's exactly what you needed
for advertising. Get people talking. Exactly. But yeah, it's just when I saw it, I said, "Yep, he's appealing to the hunters up here." But that's what that area is up there. So that's really cool.
And if you look at the billboard on the other side of that, we actually have another one, and it's a picture of a woman, out on the beach by the lake using her laptop, getting high-speed internet. And, that's the other side of it.
Right.
Come up here, use the internet.
Yep.
When people stay up here and they telework and they can do things, it helps the economy. It helps the gas stations, the restaurants, the grocery stores, the mom and pop IGAs. Allows people to enjoy their seasonal homes and allows them to justify keeping them, for example. Now instead of coming up late Friday night and leaving late, Sunday night, you can come in Friday morning and stay until Monday night if you want and know that you're still attached.
Yeah.
And you can look at it as a negative, but I think a lot of people these days talking about that generational change shift is people look at it as a positive. I mean, if you really want to turn your phone off, turn your phone off. You know
exactly.
what I mean?
Nobody's twisting your arm.
A friend of mine has a place up on Houghton Lake, and he drives from down here. So he uses his phone, goes on, turns the heat up at the place.
Yeah.
So when he walks in, it's warm. See? Technology at its finest.
We've actually got that at our place.
Sell that.
Yeah, we've got it at our place thanks to Ron and his company.
See? Same thing.
It's nice. It works.
You're leaving here and it's 10 degrees out. You just make it a nice cool 70 when I walk in the door.
There you go. So,
exactly.
Well, Ron, I appreciate you sitting down, taking some time with us, man. It's been a pleasure having you on and just opening the door a little bit and showing people what we're trying to do. I think there's great things are going to happen. We want it to happen now, but as I've learned over the last year or so,
some people take leaps and bounds, some people take baby steps.
Yeah, so we're getting there. We're getting there, and the oak quilt thing is really, to me, what really opened my eyes quickly of how much people are clamoring for information.
And oak wilt is just one of them.
Right. That's just one thing. That's just one thing, that we're dealing with. So, we're
one of many. We'd love to do a study on ticks, for example. I mean, ticks is another thing. I'm pretty sure every year I've been here, 12 years now, it's gotten worse every year, in my opinion. So
I want to give a quick shout. Talking about ticks. This hasn't been really talked about, and I just actually found out this week. One of the shows that we have, podcast shows that we have on the Outdoor Podcast channel, has been missing here recently, and I just found out why. Doing some talking back and forth. This group, I don't want to put names and faces or anything like that together, but one of the people involved with one of these podcasts was recently bitten by a tick, and this person nearly lost their life. And they think it was either the bourbon virus or the Heartland disease virus being spread by ticks. And, this person was clinically dead at one point, but is going to make a recovery, but it's a long road and a long process back. So talking about ticks, man.
What a waste of a bug.
Exactly. That's scary stuff. We're talking only a few people in the United States have actually contracted this disease through ticks.
There was one I read about, it's something, I think, Rocky Mountain, something they got from a tick. And it's just a useless bug, and it delivers all these possible killing things.
Right. So, you guys, it's that time of year. When you're out there, man, take the precautions. I got bit by one last week when I was up north, and I was only out of my vehicle, and I walked out to my food plot, maybe 20 yards, and back to my vehicle. And in that short of time, I picked up a tick, and the next day I found it on me, and it was latched on. And I'm closely watching that bite right now. So
yeah, absolutely. And it's.
So Ron, you bring up a great point about talking about ticks. That's another one, that we need to really be aware of. So
the season comes and goes, but it's pretty intense when it hits.
It is.
I get them just sitting in my office sometimes. I'll be honest, and then God, you get one on you, and then you feel like you got them all over you all day.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. Well, your office is out in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
Literally.
And next week I'll be...
hey, you know what? It's somewhere now.
That's right.
Because we're there.
That's right. Yeah. Absolutely.
And I'll be in the UP next week, so.
Yep. So putting a mark on the map for Allband, that's for sure. But
I appreciate the opportunity, guys. It's been a pleasure.
Hey, not a problem. We're going to step outside, take our last break, and we'll be right back after this.
I shoot PSE because I like one pin to 40 yards.
I shoot PSE for the perfect combination of feel and performance.
I shoot PSE because you can shoot lighter poundage and increase arrow speed.
I shoot PSE for the fastest bows on the planet. I shoot PSE because my livelihood depends on my bow.
I shoot PSE because better engineering makes a better bow.
I shoot PSE.
I shoot PSE.
I shoot PSE. I shoot PSE.
Experience PSE. Experience performance.
Killer Food Plots have been helping property owners for over 20 years create premier whitetail habitat. Whether replenishing your soil with their all-natural Organics Fusion pellets or planting a premier KFP food plot seed blend to help your deer rebuild their bodies through spring and summer while supplying the much-needed high energy during and after the rut, you can trust that Killer Food Plots family and their products will help your deer achieve their full potential.
Welcome back, everybody. Last segment of the show. It's been an entertaining almost an hour.
You know what? It's been educational.
Educational. Yeah.
And it's one of those things. Here's a company that wants to help.
Well, you know, this is what I've been talking about for the last year, off and on. I've kind of, been talking somewhat secretively about it, and not giving a lot of information until we were ready to really launch it.
And here we got Kevin out there. He can tell us firsthand. He talked to somebody from the DNR. Says, hey. And they go, well, what can we do?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, what can we do? Well, here you go. We're working on this right now.
And now you got a company, Allband, who hey, their door is open as to the ideas.
Yep.
They can't think of everything sitting there.
Right. They want to help.
They want to help, and if somebody sends something in, it might tip them off.
Yep.
Oh, hey, whoa. Same thing in the car industry, right?
Yep.
We can look down the road. What's this? 17?
Yeah, that's 2017.
5 to 7 years down the road, right? Thinking, but we don't know.
Right.
We don't know what the latest next gizmo is going to be.
Yeah, something could be invented between now and then that needs to be in a car that nobody's even thought of yet.
Right, exactly. So. And we can't think of it all. And so same thing with the outdoors. Mm-hmm. That's why we're posing that question. What do you guys, if you can log on to something, what do you want to see?
Right.
And that's here's your chance to say, hey, I want to see this or I want to see that. I tell you what, I think you hit a very valid point when we talked about, we call them the weekend warriors, right? Mm-hmm. They want to maximize their time in the outdoors, right?
Yep.
So what better way to get organized and say, okay, I'm going to get up there and I'm going to do X, Y, Z and maximize my time out in the woods because I only have 2 weekends.
Right.
Before I go hunting.
Right.
And that is a lot better suited hunter than walking out there with your, we'll say opening day, a gun, with your gun on your right and your chair and a flashlight and go, okay, what do I do now?
Yeah, right on.
And then get mad when somebody's in your spot.
Yeah, well, and aligning ourselves with the professionals in the industry, scientifically. That's the one thing we've been pushing here in Michigan. We want things based off of scientific research. I mean, the voters have already voted for that in the outdoors. We want everything based off of scientific research.
Absolutely.
And that's how we want our rules and regulations to be imposed. And that's kind of what, Ron's talking to people, and I've been talking to people and aligning ourselves with the professional people that either know scientists who've done research or want to do more research or different research and figure these things out.
Right, exactly. So, and this is just, I guess this is the conservation side of it.
Yes. Yep.
This is the
digital conservation.
And I'll say that real fast, right?
Yeah.
And it's one of those things that this is, this company, that the potential is there, and they're asking for help from the outdoors people, and they see an opportunity here, and it's just hopefully things happen and take off, and maybe, just maybe, the DNR gets going, and, and learns that, hey, maybe we can do things more on the social media front, which they're trying.
They're trying, but it's just they need a platform and a way to get there, and we can provide it.
The way I see it is they're facing an uphill battle, but they got to start somewhere.
Yeah, doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results is insanity.
Usually leads to it,
and that's kind of what's been going on. It's the same old stuff over and over again, and nothing's changing. So let's try something a little different. Let's think outside the box a little different. Let's try something here and see if we can get a different result, a positive result.
Right, exactly. And hopefully they lead the way, and we'll see what happens. Positive things.
Well, and if not, like Ron and I've talked, we just keep trudging forward, and we'll find ways to get information out as best we can, and we're working on some stuff. So
absolutely.
But on another note, have a good weekend this weekend?
Quiet
weekend.
I don't know if you've seen the picture Deb posted. We are packing. She was getting her tackle box ready for our fishing trip next week when we're up in the UP.
Okay.
I had bought her the two. I bought her the backpack fishing, the Cabela's backpack.
Okay.
For the kayak.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I bought her a backpack one, and I bought the fanny pack one.
Okay.
So she picked one, and
Which
I
one
got the
she
other
take?
one. She took the sling.
So you got a merce?
Yeah. No, I got a fanny pack.
You got a man purse. You can put your flies in.
Yeah, that's right. So we the last couple of days we've been gathering our stuff and getting everything put in those. And
you gonna be chunking jewelry, or you're throwing flies?
I'll be chunking jewelry.
Okay, right on.
We went kind of shopping today and picked up a whole mess of just whatever.
Okay.
And from I picked up another Daredevil to jigs to. It was just a smorgasbord of things to try. We'll probably try a little bit for everything, because usually up there, pike, bass, crappie, it's in the water. So we'll see if Mr. Little Trout wants to play again this year.
Are you going to you're taking the kayaks out on Lake Michigami Reservoir?
Yep.
Dude, I hope you throw a Daredevil and you land about a 45 to 50 inch pike, and he just tows you around that lake.
I hope so. That would be a riot.
I would love to see that.
It would be a riot. That would be fun. It's totally possible.
Yeah.
And you know what? Even if you land a 15-inch pike, you're going to go for a ride in a kayak.
Oh, yeah. Deb, if you're listening out there, make sure you have your phone. And if that happens, I want video. I want to see him screaming like a little girl as this pike is taking him for a jet ski ride.
I won't be screaming. I'd be happier than I'll just be holding on. Now the thing will be trying to release it.
Right, yeah.
Don't worry about going all over the lake.
Right.
Okay, what do? You got it next to the boat going.
Yeah. Now what do I do?
Yeah. So that's next week. Heading to the UP for the week.
Okay.
Talk with the forester while I'm up there. We're
Okay.
going to be going over our exit plan for the property.
So you won't be here next week for the show?
No.
Okay. I got a couple ideas of some things I'm going to try to do, or maybe I can pull off. We'll see.
If worse comes to worse, I'll phone in from the UP.
We could do that. Yeah, I can give you a call.
We did it before, so
we have done that.
I just got to go to the top of the hill.
There you go.
So, but anyways, so I hope to talk with the forester, get an exit plan for the property. They have had historic rains up there.
Everybody's had rain this last month. It's been incredible.
So, two things.
We got fish going down the sidewalk here.
Yeah, you're right. So, two things. I hope the project was supposed to be over by July 1st, but they're having trouble getting some of the wood out of one of my sections of property because
it's wet.
Mm-hmm. And I'm afraid with all this rain, it's going to lead to an increased population of the almighty mosquito.
Yeah, that could be.
Which usually, if you, I think I started somebody and they said 10 days before, if you get like a 5-day stretch of dryness, 10 days prior to when you're up there, you can usually tell whether it's going to be high or low of the bugs.
Okay.
I'm like, sure. So it's wet. So
we'll see.
Yeah, I'll stay tuned. And as far as those little ticks are concerned, yeah, I don't want to talk about those little guys.
Permethrin, man. Load up on permethrin. That's all I can tell you.
Deaton permethrin.
Spray everything down. So.
Right. So you, like we talked in the beginning, took your son down to Ohio.
Took him down to Ohio and dropped him off, and I spent the weekend on Indian Lake.
It's called Indian Lake?
Indian Lake,
okay.
yeah. At my in-laws. They got a new place there. Beautiful lake. There's sections of that lake that reminded me like I might have been down in some bayous of Louisiana. I mean, there was just, kind of like you go down some sloughs, and it was kind of jungle-ish with lily pads everywhere, and I was just waiting for a gator to come slithering up next to the boat.
You go.
But it was really cool. It's a nice place. And in all seriousness, I mean, I've called Ohio a gar hole for the last couple of weeks.
Yes, you have.
I have to take that back because Indian Lake was a very nice lake.
And matter of fact, Deb says okay, and then matter of fact, that's what her worry is catching a big fish in a kayak.
Well, that's when she paddles over and hands you the rod.
Oh, thanks.
And lets you take off.
You hear that? She paddle over to me and give me the rod.
Yeah. So, and we still have to plan our excursion on the river or the kayak trip here locally.
You got to get that guide and get her going.
Yeah.
And we'll get her to guide you down the mighty Shiawassee.
It's got to be here in July, coming up in July.
Because August we're going to be... Whew.
Yeah, I'm busy every weekend in August, and I'm busy the last weekend in July and the first weekend in July. So anytime between them two would work, or we get into the last week of September, we're busy again. So I've got from the 1st till...
See? We'll have to get her out there.
Yeah.
So you admit that Ohio has a nice lake.
Yeah, it's the only one I've seen. There's not many places to fish in Ohio.
I said a lake.
Yeah. There's not many places. It's few and far between. I've never seen so much flat land. Well, I take that back. Iowa's got a lot of flat land.
Flat corn and...
Yeah, and flat corn.
Yeah.
So
nope.
But yeah, Junior's down. He's in college and doing his thing, and yeah, it's a new step for all of us. It's pretty quiet around here, and there's an extra parking spot.
Yes, there is. I noticed that when I pulled up.
Yeah. So
shout out to Charles Byram,
hey Charles,
Jerry Lambert, and our fishing expert Cody Dawson.
Hey Cody, if you're still on, yeah, I went to your famous Indian Lake. Actually, there was a bass tournament going on there when we were there. So it was they were fishing out around the lake.
Well, there you
go.
Them
all running all over. I actually went by where they were doing the weigh-in.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so it was pretty cool.
Excellent. But other than that, man, we're over the half of the year gone.
I know it. It's flying by. It's not going to be long, and we're going to be back up north taking care of food plots. I've got a blind I need to repair. I got to start looking at trail cam photos and thinking about where we're going to put stand placements for the year.
I hope to do some surveying of that as well. Now that my landscaping has changed a little bit.
Yeah. So I'm going to be actively probably taking care of that here, like I said, in July. And the weekends when I'm not doing anything, that's the plan, is getting up and taking care of business.
I hope to put out some cameras. I hope to put them out in July. I'll probably go back. I'm thinking Labor Day to go get them.
Okay.
Get some ideas here.
Well, this week I'm going to get the PSE out, start tuning, and getting that thing rocking. I got some new Black Eagle arrows.
You got to shoot those things.
Going to get those out and start fine-tuning some stuff and making sure that we're spot on.
That's right.
And actually, we had a request last week from one of our listeners about tree stands.
Actually, we got 2 requests. One is about tree stands,
mm-hmm.
and actually 3.
Shot placement
from a stand. And the third one is broadheads.
So we're working on all those things. We're trying to come up with a plan to address one or two or all of them at the same time. We're going to be shooting some video. We're talking with some people, so just be patient on that. Hopefully we can get that rolling here, come late July, early August. So
because it also rolls into the month of August, and month of August is Tree Stand Safety Month.
That's right. So it'd be a good time to kind of start covering all that.
It'll be a great time to talk tree stand safety. You hear about it every year. Some unfortunate person will either fall, die from a tree stand, and we don't want that to happen to anybody.
No, and we all have probably know somebody that's happened to. So,
and Paul Locke, he says have a great one. He's gonna go have some chicken fried steak.
Sounds good.
So, but safety. Matter of fact, there was just a gentleman here today's Sunday, Friday night, out on the big lake. He had a life jacket on and he jumped in the water to help somebody else, but his jacket wasn't on properly.
No kidding.
And he ended up drowning.
No, wow.
Yeah. So even when you think you're safety.
Right. Well, we were down there on the lake, and actually my daughter and my grandson went down with us.
Book snort.
And what I did not know is, and I'm not sure of the regulations here in Michigan, I assume they're probably the same, but anybody in the boat that's under 10 years old in that state has to have a life jacket on while the boat's moving.
Yes, mandatory on at all times.
Yeah. So
we
had a little one on him.
Yes, he did. He looked big. Mm-hmm. But he looked like he was enjoying himself.
That was the littlest thing we could get our hands on.
I agree.
So
I agree.
He hated it, but he wore it.
He was going to wear it.
Right. So but that's all we got for this week. Anything else from you?
No. Otherwise, maybe we'll get back to some summer temperatures by midweek.
I hope so.
I see it's dark out and looks like it's raining.
Great. Welcome to the end of June.
Yeah.
All right, folks. As we always like to say here at the Up North Journal, if you're on the water or in the woods, shoot straight and be safe until next week on the Up North Journal. And 4th of July is coming. Do not blow your trigger finger off. Be safe for those fireworks. This episode was brought to you by PSE Archery,
Black Eagle Arrows,
Scent Blocker,
Killer Food Plots,
Cabela's,
Spot Shooters,
Antler Action,
Family Traditions Tree Stands,
Tom's Custom Turkey Calls,
and Badass Slingshots.
Thanks for listening, and join us again here next week. Until then, remember, as we always like to say, if you're out on the water or in the woods, shoot straight and be safe until next week on the Up North Journal.